Hey, folks, good morning and welcome to another episode of Steelers Morning Rush. I'm Alan Saunders. It is Thursday. The Pittsburgh Steelers are having their final practice of Week 4 in Pittsburgh today at UPMC Rooney Sports Complex. Another rainy day in Pittsburgh, and it's nice in Ireland, so go figure. The Steelers practiced outdoors in the rain yesterday. It is raining even harder today. I would be pretty surprised if they don't practice inside over at the Rooney Sports Complex, but we will see on my way there now with Brendan Howe and Ed Thompson for our final day of coverage. The Steelers will practice Friday and Saturday in Dublin before their Sunday game against the Minnesota Vikings at Croke Park. Today I want to talk about the Steelers offensive line and two really good questions I got over the last couple of days from you guys in the audience. One from a longtime member of this audience, Desert Cactus, who asked why the Steelers, specifically against the Patriots, didn't employ more trap and wham schemes against a defensive line that likes to get upfield. And then I got another question from another member who asked if the Steelers' offensive line scheme is too complicated, especially run blocking, and if they need to simplify things to get better results. Two interesting questions, taking two different approaches to the same problem of the Steelers' offensive line not quite being up to snuff so far this season. So let's start with, there are two basic kinds of run play. There are zone blocks and there are man-to-man blocks or gap blocks. In a zone block, each offensive lineman is assigned an area, and a man scheme, each offensive lineman is to block an individual person. So when you see outside zone, you just block who is in front of you. There is no assignment, really. You're supposed to go to a space and block whoever happens to be there. In theory, a zone blocking scheme is easier. It requires less communication. That's one of the reasons it's overwhelmingly popular in college football. Also, because it's overwhelmingly popular in college football, zone blocking is what most young offensive linemen have done more of. I don't really remember. Maybe Mason McCormick was doing some power stuff, some gap stuff in South Dakota State. But most of the Power 5 teams, any team that runs an RPO game, quarterback mobility, that kind of thing, is probably running a lot of zone blocking. Now, you can certainly do both, and the best running teams do. What Desert Cactus is asking for, those are, gap plays. Trap is an old-fashioned play. The Steelers used to run it under Chuck Noll many, many years ago. Trap is good for punishing penetrating linemen, better than outside zone, which really punishes linemen who can't move laterally, right? I mean, they all do different things. I would say it's actually the opposite of the second question, though. I mean, the Steelers have a fairly limited menu of running plays as it is. Now, Arthur Smith has always run a very high percentage of wide zone, but maybe that's just what he wants to do. But if you're going to approach this problem from what is simplest to do, that is also the answer, is to pick a zone run and run it 100 times a game. Figuratively, obviously. If you're running it 100 times a game, you're doing something pretty great. That's probably the simplest thing to do. What Desert Cactus is talking about is, hey, these are the New England Patriots. This is what we do, what they do. This is the play that is the best counter to what they do, even though we have literally never run it this year. Steelers run under Canada, so maybe some of the offensive linemen who were here, who played under Canada, I'm sure they've all run it at some point in their life, but not something the Steelers did this year, not something they did last year. So it would be much more complicated to take a play that is not in their current rotation and install it for a week because it's what beats the Pats, and then teach that and then expect guys to communicate it right, to get their assignments right, and to not have missed assignments on the offensive line. That would be more difficult. And I think when you have a play that's your bread and butter, that's a lot easier. So No, I don't think simpler would help. I think the Steelers' running game is already extremely simple in order to, put some kid gloves on this young offensive line. I do agree with Desert Cactus that trapping can be very effective against penetrating defenses. You can't do it against everybody. If you have a team trying to two-gap, you'll never trap them because they're just standing there. But against penetrating defenses, trapping works very well. And so I think there's a good argument to be made that the Steelers have not done enough man runs, power runs, what I'll call like traditional old school runs under Arthur Smith, even though that would make their running game much more complicated, because I think they're a smaller offensive line that operates well in space. And like trapping, for example, involves pulling. Like the Steelers had, when they ran a trap scheme, incredibly athletic offensive linemen. I think the Steelers' offensive line is athletic. They're not monsters. I think a trapping, pulling scheme would better fit their personnel, but it is not easier, and it is not what these guys are used to, and is also not what Pat Meyer has specialized in coaching. And so, you run this idea of, hey, maybe this would be better, but nobody's ever done it before. How well can you teach it, and how quickly can these guys pick it up to make that a part of your game plan? I don't know. I think they should have tried. I think this was a problem that was evident last year, and I think the Steelers should have spent more time this offseason focused on runs that are different in character than what their bread and butter outside zone is. But they didn't. It's probably too late to go down that road now, just because of the timing aspect of things. It's going to be very hard to get cohesion on stuff like that this group has not done together at this point in the game. So was this an attempt to just try to keep things simple for a young and inexperienced offensive line? Maybe, but Arthur Smith has also traditionally just heavily favored the zone runs and specifically the outside or wide zone play, which he features very heavily. We saw last year, he went to a secondary series and he used that toss series a lot. I would have been very okay with a secondary series being some kind of pull, trap, power, something like that, to make better use of the athleticism of this offensive line this year. But that was not done. And now, even if you get into a situation where that's what – maybe they could do it over the bye, maybe. But that's pretty much their last chance to try to get some whole new ideas into a unit for the rest of the way. Outside of that, you're barely practicing. Once you're going to get – the Steelers are going to play 12 consecutive weeks to close the season, something like that. 13 consecutive weeks to close the season. One of them a short week. I guess you'll have a mini bye after the Thursday night game. You're barely practicing in most of those weeks. You're just trying to get through it. And so you're not going to be installing gigantic new swaths of playbook at that point. You pretty much have what you have. So, good questions, good thought process. Love that conversation. More coming up. Afternoon Drive, me and Smitty, 6 o'clock. Stay tuned for that, as well as more here on the YouTube channel. And, of course, go over to SteelersNow.com and check out the written content. Got my notes from the road up from New England, a little bit delayed. Had some stuff going on behind the scenes here that I've been trying to take care of. And so I got that up for you. SM Plus subscribers, head over there and check that out. You paid for it. So you may as well go read it. All right. Until next time. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And enjoy.